Hello.
Hi.
How is it going?
Oh,
Um, so welcome to today's maintainers call. As usual, we have here the antitrust policy notice and a reminder to all the participants to adhere to the code of conduct of Hyperledger community members. So for today, we have quite a few topics. We have introductions as usual, a little bit of updates, ADRs, a question about project roadmap, uh, something to share about a security incident, uh, one topic brought from uh, Bjorn to discuss about something specific about the pricing data specification, the usual open issues, and finally Q&A. So do we have new people in the call? I don't remember, Kyle, if you have been here before.
I was at the meeting last week.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I have terrible memory. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it looks like everyone is known in the call, so we can move forward. Updates, quick update on the name change. Well, we did the exercise about voting for names. We have a list of names. The community voted for Identus. So this was shared with Ryan and David Boswell from Hyperledger. They did some preliminary reviews on that name, and they say that it was okay. Now they send that to Hyperledger marketing and legal teams to do the additional revisions that they need to do on that. If it is approved, then that is going to be the name. If something happens and for some reason it cannot be used, we have 11 additional names from the voting to choose from. So hopefully this one it will be okay and we don't have more delays for the name. Quick update on that. Then we have ADRs. I guess David.
So I've removed one that we've completed and I believe is moving forward for implementation on our roadmap as next. The open ADR on using a report problem reporting in the agent has been approved from a pull request perspective. It needs to be merged, and that ADR will then go in and again be implemented in part of the roadmap as status next. That's all the updates at the time being. I think we've got a couple of ADRs coming through. So I think in 2 weeks' time, there'll be many more on this list. So I'll send details of those through in Discord. And I want to make sure that I share them before the call in Discord so people can read them. This isn't the first time that they're seeing them. So that's on me to make an improvement there. So I'll be doing that.
Okay. Thanks for that update. So this item here, I added this, is about the project roadmap. So this was created by Bart, I believe, but it looks like, is anyone updating this? Do you guys know, maybe David or Yuri?
No.
Or if it's...
No, but we have this in our plans for this quarter.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Esteban,
Mhm.
the expectation would be that we expect kind of you to pick up some of that work, handing over from Bart's responsibilities. Apologies that that's not explicit. I'm certainly not maintaining it, but I did have a quick handover with respect to the statuses and priorities. So I know how that was managed. I'm happy to talk through that if you haven't had that handover. The issues will appear on here, but it's not actively managed. I don't know you. I haven't spoken to you about the plans, but certainly we should touch base on that and just work through that as a team.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am aware of what is going on here. I know that much, but I didn't know if was someone else updating or someone else was in charge of this, because there is also a stream of work that needs to come during this period that probably will be done with help of Michael, because we need to do all these. I'm not sure if it's a migration or what shape of form it's going to take, but we need to get out of Jira somehow and start reflecting the progress of things. But for the time being, I mean, I see that there are a lot of things that are already closed. So if no one is maintaining this, I guess I can, just for the sake of keeping a little bit of order, I will be taking the task of lining this up a little bit, just moving to close the things that are already completed, and maybe put into later and now things that we see that are already in progress or will be probably taking into a work stream at some point in the near future. So, yeah, no, I was just wanting to ask about this if someone had more information than what I had. But that's okay. So maybe Dave, if you want to talk a little bit about the repository incident.
Yeah, no problem at all. And apologies that I haven't put slides together at the moment. I can put some text together, but I'll just talk through it now.
No worries.
The too long don't read is that over the weekend of February the 12th, there was an attempted security breach in our Hyperledge Labs GitHub repository. I said it was quite light, and there was a malicious pull request created that aimed to create a GitHub action that was designed to execute commands on our self-hosted runners. So the repository that sits in Hyperledger is attached to some self-hosted GitHub runners for the actions that are owned by IOG that have been used for private builds for the past year or so. And it was an attempt to essentially check the, output some sensitive information from that repository, that runner. There was no impact. There was no the execution was prevented. There was no exposure of private material, and there's no unauthorized access to the runners. It was noticed manually, and then there was a response to that ensured the security settings of the repositories were updated. For this particular repository, it was a case that because it was a first-time contributor, the actions weren't run. We've had a post-mortem on it for not only just this repository, but all the repositories that we operate within IO as well, and to update those. And I can share more information as we complete that post-mortem that's relevant to this repository. I hope that's a good overview. I think for me, it signals the need to make sure that we think about the security of the build tools attached to an open repository. And it will make an internal discussion around those self-hosted runners be picked up by us. So for example, like if we're going to continue to run them for this particular project, let's accept that, let's acknowledge, make sure that's very well known, and then make sure that we do apply the right security practices to them. And also for the repositories that are open, that are part of Hyperledger, and as we increase that number, make sure there's a good set of security defaults and templates that are in place to prevent it from happening again.
Okay.
Are there questions on that?
So I have a question about that. Should we consider on some actions to not use the self-hosted machines? So should we use the ones provided from GitHub? This is to allow like those actions to be run from outside the contributors, because from the point of view of someone that is new and just want to do a pull request, would be nice to have that pull request verified by those actions.
I think it's a case that we need to put a topic in to discuss it.
Yeah.
So maybe for the next maintainers call, what I can do is I can add to this slide a brief description of the points that I've just listed and the outcomes and next steps that are appropriate for the Hyperledger Open repository. And then it can be a discussion topic. We briefly touched upon it. It's a really good question. There's a couple of things here, which is the reason why we have self-hosted runners was to increase the velocity of our build processes. And there are shared runners available from GitHub and from Hyperledger in terms of the accounts that are paid for, but the performance guarantees may not meet the current performance that we have, and that may have an impact to the velocity of the team and the project in general. These are all trade-offs. One of the things for improving the security using self-hosted runners is to restrict the actions that can be run to those that are published by the organization that owns the repository. This may be difficult because essentially, if you use custom actions, which we do, you need to clone those, audit the code, and keep them in your own organization. And obviously, that's quite a high overhead for anybody to be doing. So it would, and GitHub do publish an advisory that says if you've got a public repo, you should be using the GitHub provided runners for the increased security. So there's lots of topics there. We left it as a discussion point post-mortem to be had. So I'll write it up on here, and then Fabio, if you in a couple of weeks ask that question again with the trade-offs there, I think that'd be a good point to have that discussion.
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, Fabio, as you remember, around a year ago, there were difficulties with our CI jobs. It took around 40 minutes to wait for a particular job to be executed in a queue with default GitHub runners because of the current license that we buy in GitHub.
Yeah, I was just saying for a contributor would be nice to have maybe exactly the same action, but that is running on the GitHub machines. So it doesn't need to run for our pull request, but could have exactly the same action that runs from outside people. We could do that.
Probably it's possible to configure this. I don't know.
I don't know how difficult it would be, but it's worth asking the question. If we see value in doing the work, if it delivers value, let's do it. But I think we need to progress on the post-mortem actions internally before we can have that discussion. So Fabio, I'll ask the question again, I'll write it up, and then Esteban can have it on his list as an agenda item for 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
Any other comment around this topic? Okay, I guess we're good. So this is a topic wrote by Bjorn. Maybe Bjorn, if you want to comment about this one.
Yeah, sure. So historically, the Prism method didn't account for the network that it was published on. So, for example, the mainnet or pre-prod. And in the past, this wasn't so problematic because the mainnet access was quite limited to certain parties. So everybody in the Prism pioneers were using the pre-prod or the testnet before. And there wasn't much of a problem. And there was basically no confusion on which network it was because you only had access to usually one network. So going forward, especially with the open sourcing of the node, or with your new node implementation, and also with the aspect that Prism might be running on midnight in the future, I think we need some way to accommodate the network and maybe even the chain in the Prism DID method. And I hope this is mostly undisputed that we need that. And my argument is, okay, at the current point in time is actually a good point in time to do this before the work on LACE really starts, before more people are coming in, before more Catalyst proposers get their hands on the Prism agent and or Identus. So we should rather do that in the near term than moving that out maybe a half a year or a year into the future, and it will get more complicated for everybody.
As far as I remember, we discussed this option as well, and made decision to keep the Prism as simple as possible, because you can create as much as you want DIDs in different networks, and it's usually up to you to use different seed values in different test networks. So it's just a matter of seed value then DID and all other keys are generated based on deterministic derivation. So overall, we decided that it's easier to create one DID in one network and another DID in another network. But we can start this conversation again if it's really required.
I mean, I wasn't part of the last conversation you had. And I mean, when you see a DID at the moment, you don't know on which network it is. Okay, so, and the DID could be on two networks at the same time. So in the initial creation of the DID, there isn't a network component. So you can create a DID once and publish it on two networks. So in the initial state, that doesn't matter because it resolves to the same DID. But then you can do different updates on different networks, and then you have two different DID documents, both matching the same DID. So that's a problem.
Yeah, so I was checking the specs and it's not in there, but I think the conclusion that we came was that all the DIDs that exist must be on the main network. And for the pre-prod, it was going to have a prefix after the saying what network it is. I think that was the last conversation that I had about this. And yeah, it's a problem, clear. We agree on that. So, but I think we agree that the one that is right now, it's supposed to be from the main network.
Okay.
And the other network doesn't exist at this moment.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. Ignore just the other test networks. But then the question is, what happens if you integrate Midnight? Because they have another main net. You have to account for that somehow.
I think the problem statement is very valid. I wasn't part of the team. I have no idea what the internal discussions were. My suggestion would be, it's been raised, hey, let's put it as a feature request. Let's ask for the feedback between the people that wrote the original spec and to contribute to it. It makes logically, it makes perfect sense to me beyond what you're saying. It seems like it's absolutely necessary, but it's probably important to get there's no architectural decision record for this, that we weren't capturing them then. So I would absolutely advocate for getting that information on that ticket and then navigating it in this call in a couple of weeks' time with those people on the call. That makes the most sense to me.
That sounds good. And maybe when you look at all the different DID methods, they all have some namespacing to define the network they're running on. So it's not unusual to do that.
And it may also be the decisions we took a year ago.
Yeah.
Now are different because of the way that we're organized, right? So I think, yeah, if Esteban, I'm speaking for you here, but I think if we can create this as a new feature to take that on, then I certainly will make sure that the right people can respond to it, and they'll be in the call in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay. Yeah, I think probably this topic will take some more relevance in the near future, given that Midnight is catching up in development. I believe that they have a public testnet since yesterday. Probably there's going to be more people interested on having this kind of alternative of BDR in Midnight in place. So I guess this proposal that Bjorn is making will have more and more sense as we move forward. Okay, I will
have to
take
say,
note of this.
it's awesome. We have a feature request that's coming through that's not just from an internal team. This is a fantastic day for us all.
Yeah.
Now it comes to how we navigate it and we put it in place, right? That's the next trick we've got to work out. But yeah, happy days.
Yep. Anyone has someone else to comment about this topic? No, we're good. So let's go through the open issues list. So we have this one opened by Michael about the PR template, something that we love to discuss. about templates. We had some conversations internally. I think the last one was with Javi, Michael, myself. I don't remember who else was there. But basically, the agreement was to use this template that is here as a base template. Keep it in place for a while, see how it works, see if people really cares about these things, if they like to feel this stuff or it is more probable than not. But there was quite a lot of effort gathering feedback from different people to come with this template. And Mike Paul created this PR basically to ask for additional feedback. The PR is open in there, and I guess that if there is nothing else from anyone that wants to talk about this, I'm not sure. I guess that can be merged into that repo. So we use this as, actually, I'm not sure if this is something that you merge into the repo or something that you set up into the repo. I have no clue how this works. I guess it's a configuration rather than a PR.
It's either a repo configuration or it's a file that's a template within the repository. One would require a PR, one would not. I actually haven't set this up before, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a file on the repository. So the idea, I think,
Okay.
is to use that file that Michael mentioned, or the template, and just put it on the repository.
Okay. So then I guess it would be a matter of whoever needs to review this PR to finish the review, and then it can be merged. Anyone has any comment related to the PR template? If not, then let's move with the next one. I saw this ticket and I am unable to understand what is this about. I think it was opened by someone from Socius.
I believe we discussed this internally just this week. So I can add some context to it. So if we set the context of an environment where you're running multiple agents from different locations and services, I believe that there is, when you try and communicate using the DIDCOM service endpoint, the scheme, so HTTP, HTTPS, the URL wallet.socius.io, and anything that comes after the path, the scheme part is hard coded to HTTP. It's not configurable. And that's a mistake, that's a bug. And what that means is if you're running it under a secure context, like from a browser, you're working with the SDK, and it's under HTTPS, typically the security will prevent you from calling a non-secure endpoint. So you can't connect to a HTTP endpoint. I mean, I'm 95% sure this is probably the ticket that sparked that conversation. But it basically means that we should have that reviewed by a member of the SDK team with the agent team. So we can suggest people to put it on to be reviewed it. If it's the same problem, then we can raise an issue to be solved or a change to code that allows it to be configurable, and then update our documentation. We discussed it yesterday. We haven't had a catch up on that internally at all. So I think this is something that you can assign to myself or Yuri, perhaps. Yuri, you're welcome to give me a nod or say no. One of us can update it, make sure the right people are on it, and then try and action it. I don't mind who owns it. Yuri can decide.
So who wants
Yep.
it?
We decided to add the documentation of that all these services, Prism Agent and Mediator, should be behind the proxy that is configured to expose TLS transport level security protocol. And we will create corresponding documentation for this in order to clarify our view on this question. So it's more a question of documenting how to properly run our services.
Okay. So who do I assign this to? Because I mean, the idea is just to be able to give those details back to whoever opened the ticket.
Just send it to me, and I will figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, because I think that that's what we discussed with Ravi yesterday, and the problem is that we have to update the documentation, but also the problem is that you cannot override the HTTP, the protocol part of the URL when you start up the agent. It's by default HTTP, and you cannot override this. So I think another task was to expose the protocol part as a variable that you can set when you start up the agent to move to HTTPS. So I think Javi is maybe Javi would be the best person to assign that ticket to. I don't know. But it's, yeah, we also have to update the startup script of the agent, I think.
Let's take it away as an action, right? So I think you're an event, you can help Yuri put the right information on it. And if you need any more from me, let me know. And then Esteban can triage it and make sure the right person is actioning it.
Okay. So next one. This one was also raised by Michael. What was this one? Okay. So basically it's about apparently it's possible to come here and report a new issue and create here a security vulnerability, but we already have instructions for that in the security MD file. So what it says here is to come to the...
That's the same link?
No, it's different. Apparently this one is only visible for the maintainers.
Okay. Assign that to me then. I implemented this policy. Let me have a look at that.
Okay.
I am surprised. Thank you. I'll take care of that. Just to add context, we want them to not be visible. So it shouldn't be a visible issue if there's a security vulnerability because people can take advantage of it. So I'll talk to Michael and that shouldn't be there. I'll take care of it.
Okay. So next one. This was something reported by John. Well, that's hard to pronounce.
It's John, yeah.
Okay.
You can close it. I mean, we discussed, and it has been fixed by updating the documentation.
Okay.
So Shailesh did that. So we can now close it. Yeah, it has been confirmed by John.
Okay, thanks. One less. The maintainers file. So I did some work on this one. Actually, I have the list here because it's easier to see. So I took this list from the GitHub team stuff that we have in Hyperledger Labs configuration. These are the current maintainers. So I assume that these are the ones that should be part of that MD file. We have Anton, we have Bjorn, we have David, we have Pat, we have Yuri as current maintainers in the list. I don't know if Anton plans to continue being involved in the project. Do you guys know?
I don't think so. So we can remove him.
Okay, so then I will move him into the emeritus maintainers table, I guess. Then we continue to have Bjorn. David, after the 29th of February, are you going to continue being involved?
I will continue to be a maintainer, yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's great. So I guess I'm going to update the table, moving Anton to Emeritus, and we will keep the others ones as they are. Do you guys believe that there is someone else in the team that should be part of this maintainer list, or is good?
The email on that list, are you using for anything? Because it is wrong.
So basically, this list is, well, it's not a list. It's basically what is in GitHub.
Yeah, but you are not putting the email in there, right?
The email is in there.
Which emails are incorrect, Fabio? Apart from yours.
Yours.
Yeah. It's just
And
the
you are going to use
Oh.
as access to yours, David.
I will get mine changed, don't worry.
Okay.
Okay, I will fix Yuri. That's true. Typical copy-paste error. And this one will need to be updated. Besides that, any additional modification that you're seeing here?
My only surprise is the list is shorter than I expected, but I will check the documentation I have from the past and just see.
Yeah, because in the proposal document, I think there is a bigger list, but they are initial contributors. Looks like here in the GitHub organization stuff, there are different teams. So I don't remember the names, but the other ones have more people in there. This is only maintainers, and I believe they have more privilege than the other roles. So next one, this was opened by Bjorn. This one, what was this one?
It doesn't look like it's been followed up.
No, I think it's assigned to
Shailesh.
Shailesh, are you? Yeah, maybe Shailesh, if you can give us an update.
This is fixed now. Like, it's a documentation update, right? So it is done. It's already, I think, released. I don't know whether the document is released or not, but it's updated.
Have you commented on it, Shailesh, about it being done?
I comment. Oh, I haven't commented. Okay, I can comment that then.
Okay. Yeah, please add a comment. And
I think another proposition from Bjorn was to not allow starting the agent without the Docker host variable, because otherwise you can end up with a running agent, which gives, you see that HTTP, I mean, a service endpoint URL, DITCOM service endpoint URL in the OOB invitation, which is without host part.
Yeah, that part is not done.
Yeah.
So if you need to address that, probably we might need to validate whether the URL generated is valid or not.
Yeah, or at least that requires something to be passed. I mean, not an empty Docker host, because we know it will fail anyway. I mean,
yeah. Okay, I think I can look into that. What can be done?
okay. Yeah, please also add an update in the ticket so we can know that it's being followed up. This is 859. And the last one was about the memory leak.
I really appreciate the addition of the screenshot today, and it's given me this good, but I haven't done all this. So if you can scroll down for me, I did test this last week, and I had 1% space left on my Linux workstation. And then when I came back in the morning, I spent hours deleting files one by one to get into boot of it. So if you've ever experienced that pain point before, you'll know exactly how painful that is. It means I need to repeat the test. It's currently running. I haven't started it again, but I am growing more and more concerned over your post, because while my testing so far doesn't actually show me anything that's creeping up in memory, I can see additional thread uses popping up as well. but you've got no memory, garbage collection kicking in there that I can see visible. So I'm unsure of what the problem is. I don't want to close it without being sure, and I'm not even certain that the tests that I'm running currently will be conclusive on it. So what I'd like to suggest is that you and I have a quick look together, perhaps at the start of next week, if you'd be willing to. After I've got all my test results back, we can review my screenshots and code and see if we can work together on ensuring that actually, with a couple of configuration changes on your machine, this does get garbage collection. It does not eat 100% of the memory you have available.
Sure. I can set up a few different agents with different configuration, and we let them run for a few days or weeks and see what happens.
Yeah. So can you explain what are we seeing on this graph? Is the memory limited? Is the garbage collection running more frequent, or what is the problem?
Well, I mean, the memory usage increases with an agent which is doing nothing. So the agent is just started and it's sitting there for days and weeks, and the memory available to the machine goes down here.
But with the JVMF memory, it will always try to use more memory than the one that is. It tries to avoid doing the garbage collection. So if you have limit, my question is, if we do limit the memory, does the garbage collection run more frequently? This means that there is a memory leak, or it's just like something that is, okay, the garbage collection is not doing anything, and when it's have all your memory, start doing garbage collection?
I guess it's doing garbage collection when the memory runs out, because it's not crashing.
Yeah, but my point is, maybe it's not a memory leak. We need to figure out what's going on.
So Fabio, just to play back, the initial response is it's not a memory leak. It would be garbage collection, but we do not limit the containers. However, if I run this locally in the same Docker Compose file, I absolutely do not see this. I see a typical garbage collection sawtooth pattern, even if it's idle. Now, so that's why I just didn't want to close it out with it doing more testing. The testing that I tried to do, which I failed to do miserably because of disk space, was to soak test for 24 hours, leave idle for 24 hours, and then soak test again to see the differences and post back the results and the findings. My suggestion is that we will run some more agents in different locations, myself and Bjorn included, one that's limited, one that is not, and I can do my testing, we can observe the results. My expectation is it's absolutely fine, but I don't want to close it and then find in 6 months we do have a problem and we haven't tested it properly.
Okay, so the test that I would like to see is that we know when the garbage collection is running, and having the memory limited. If there is a memory leak, the garbage collection will run more frequently.
Yeah.
Because there is accumulating memory and it needs to release memory, so it runs the garbage collection. But if the garbage collection doesn't run more frequently, it doesn't mean there is a memory leak.
Okay.
Can I chime in 1 second? Because I experienced this same behavior, and it wasn't a garbage collection problem. It was like it was the PostgreSQL admin was set up with a default password, and the machine got like some malware or something from that was mining some coin, but it was only because that default password was enabled on the PostgreSQL Postgre database of some of the services. And I just commented out that, well, I killed everything, started again, commented out that service, and never had that problem again. So probably if you have that service enabled, you're suffering that same problem. So maybe double check if you have, it's one of the admins from it's like the MySQL admin for PostgreSQL database that was enabled with a default password. On the regular configuration, the thing that you clone from GitHub, right? So either update that password or disable that. I just disabled that service because I don't need it. That was what I experienced when I saw the memory going up also on my machine.
Well, this is now a contained environment, so I don't think there's something accessing it from the outside. So it's not even possible. But yeah.
Thank you for raising it, though. It's very useful for other people to know that if we have default passwords and you do expose it, then there's potential risk. So that is something that's really important, and we should make it a disclaimer that's quite big that tells people to make sure that they're comfortable with exposing it. But yeah, thank you for mentioning it. I think Fabio, that's good input. If you have a couple of minutes to put a comment on this ticket, I'd appreciate it. I'm leaving the test running on my machine for a couple of days, and then I'm coming back to it Thursday, Friday this week. And Bjorn, I'll try and get in touch with you then. What I'll probably do is I'll just send you on Discord, or I'll make a feature branch. I'll add a draft pull request with the limits imposed on Docker containers, and I'll ask you to run that as an additional container. I'll do the same, and I'll be in touch on Thursday with that.
Sounds great.
But you made my day with the picture, so I appreciate the update.
Okay, so I believe that was the last open issue that we have. Let's see. Yeah, I think those are all the topics that we have for today. If anyone has questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, whatever.
Maybe one thing for me that was almost touched upon, but we haven't actually talked a little bit about it. But just for notice, I am departing IO at the end of this month, but I do expect to be a maintainer and be part of this community. So I'm not removing myself. I want to be here. I'll probably have a couple of weeks, just 2 to 4 weeks away, just to give some closure to the team that I'm leaving internally. So if you don't see me for a couple of weeks, I am coming back. There will be people picking up the things that I do that are internal. And perhaps for those 4 weeks, we'll find someone new to own it, from doing the ADRs, for example, because there's still stuff happening internally that isn't quite visible. So we touched upon it. I thought I'd just make sure that that's known. But yeah, if I do disappear, I will be back.
Awesome. Yeah, it will be nice to have you back after your...
Well, you will find me coming back and saying, hey, I want to know what you're working on, and can I work on this ADR, and can I do performance testing? So Faye's very excited for me to be coming back as a forcing function.
Yeah, no, that will be, I mean, very good for the project, because you know how things are managed here internally, and taking contributions from the outside will help us to move more into that direction. That is something that we are hoping to achieve. So that will be great. Anything else? If not, well, thank you very much for joining. Next week we have the outreach call as usual. This maintainers call will repeat in 2 weeks. And yeah, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, bye.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye bye, guys.